From the majestic kingdoms of the past to the resilient spirit of the present, Nigeria's history is a tale of strength, perseverance, and triumph which has witnessed the rise and fall of great eras, each leaving a mark on the rich textiles of its heritage. But the echoes of these powerful kingdoms and great eras of the past are fast eroding from the hearts of the people. So, how do we recreate a sense of connection to our past? Who will rise to promote empathy and a sense of shared purpose among our past and future generations? Meet 30 outstanding young Nigerians from the North, West, East and South regions of the country in the Young Historian Competition, determined to connect the courage of past generations to the glorious heritage of the present and future generations. Their mission is to inspire a positive attitude to the knowledge of history and provide a link between the past and future generations. Who will emerge as Nigeria's first champion of history? The Young Historian Competition, an initiative of the Restored Heart Foundation, is aimed at promoting knowledge of history among undergraduates of Nigeria's tertiary institutions. Welcome to the quarterfinal stage of the Young Historian Competition. It's time to witness the best of the best battle it out for a chance to advance to the semi-finals. Representing the Northwest region are the talented Rose John Toyo and Abdul Malik Abubakar, while Joy Adeboye from the Southwest, Luke Daramola from the North Central, and Alex Olajide and Beryl Etop Ikwiri from the South region are also in the running to make it to the next round. These contestants have already proven themselves to be exceptional performers, but only 4 will move forward to the semi-finals. Who will impress our judges and secure a spot in the next round? It promises to be an exciting ride as the competition heats up and the stakes get higher. This is the quarterfinal stage of the Young Historian Competition, where the contestants will be battling it out in a public speaking challenge. For the first time in this competition, they will be competing in a physical arena. Don't miss a moment of the action.
Young Historian Competition, the keeper of African history.
The 6 remaining contestants are battling it out for the prestigious title of the Keeper of African History. But that's not all. The winner will receive 500,000 naira in academic scholarship and other attractive benefits. In this quarterfinal stage, each contestant has been given a fascinating topic on history to research and present. The judges will score them based on a set of criteria.
First, we look at the depth of research. The depth of research carries 40 marks or 40%. Now, under the depth of research, we're looking at the research paper. That's 10 marks. We're looking at the introduction, 5 marks. We're looking at the abstract, 5 marks. Definition, 5 marks. Theories, 5 mark. References, 5 marks. And conclusion, 5 marks. And then we have presentation, 10 marks. We have confidence level, 5 marks. Then we have time management skill, 5 marks. Then we have defense, 20 marks. We have 100 marks in total. The judges has 80 marks and the audience have 20 marks.
Young Historian Competition, the keeper of African history.
Beryl Etop Ikwiri, representing the South region of Nigeria, is the first to take the stage. Her presentation will delve into the Nigerian Civil War, its aftermath, and the inspiring efforts made towards national reconciliation and peace building.
I'll be utilizing a quality method approach involving oral interviews, historical archives, and academic studies. Now, to set the stage, I reviewed literatures like Chinua Achebe's There Was a Country and John de St. John's The Brothers War. This literature provides valuable insights and personal experiences of the conflict. I also reviewed some academic articles, historical archives, and PhD dissertations to enrich understanding. Now, for my methodology, I used the qualitative method approach, cross-referencing primary sources with my secondary material to provide a very multi-dimensional perspective on this topic. The Nigerian Civil War, which began on the 9th of July 1967 and ended on the 15th of January 1970, was a war that happened between Nigeria and the Republic of Biafra, a secessionist group that declared themselves independent of Nigeria in 1967. Nigeria at that time was headed by the General Yakubu Gowon, while Biafra was led by Lieutenant Colonel Chukwuemeka Odumegu Ojukwu. Biafra at that time represented the nationalist aspiration of the leadership of the Igbo ethnic group, who felt that they could no longer coexist with the federal government that was at the time dominated by the Muslim Hausa Fulani interest. The conflict resulted from political, economic, religious, cultural, and ethnic tensions that preceded the United Kingdom's formal decolonization of the country from 1960 to 1963. The control for the oil wells, the oil production in the Niger Delta, was also a strategic factor, especially in the case of the interference of international bodies in Nigeria. It is pertinent to note that by the time Nigeria had gained their independence in 1960, there were already threats to destabilize the region-state development in the country, beginning from the state of emergency in the Western region in 1962 to the census crisis in 1962 to 1963 and the election crisis in 1964 to 1965. Then the military intervention in 1966 that was later interpreted to be the Igbo Eastern military coup. Then the counter-military coup that was a reprisal by the Hausa Fulani group still in 1966, but on July 29th of that year. Now, following the outbreak of the issues, Nigeria tried to resolve the issue. They couldn't come to a solid resolution, and therefore this led to the effective breakdown of the First Republic of Nigeria. Eventually, the Republic of Biafra declared themselves a secessionist group independent of the country on 30th of May 1967. The Nigerian military responded by a show of military force on the July 9th, 1967. And the war continued for 2.5 years before the final surrender of the Biafran force on January 15th, 1970. Now, the features of the war, key events that occurred include the Aburi Accord, the Asaba Massacre, the anti-Igbo pogroms, and the eventual surrender of Biafra in 1970. The war left Nigeria to grapple with humanitarian crisis and reconciliation challenges. Nigeria has come a far way, achieved milestones in the reconciliation program. Now, on January 15th, 1987, the Nigerian government went to great lengths to establish the National War Museum that was subsequently commissioned September 14th, 1989. The War Museum holds a repertoire of memories, including pictures of wartime events, wartime arts, and relics. These help to show a remembrance for the Civil War at the time. Also, the introduction of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is commemorated on January 15th, was also made to coincide with the day that the Nigerian Biafra War officially ended. Of course, there is so much more to be done. Reconciliation is an ongoing journey. Though challenging, it is an ongoing journey. I also have some few recommendations like educational programs, the inclusion of more people, the establishment of truth and peace commissions, and political reforms, which I feel will go a very long way to further speeding up the process of reconciliation. My references use Chinua Achebe in his book There Was a Country, and John de St. George, The Brothers' Work. Also Albert Isaac Olawale, The Myths the reality and challenges of Nigeria's reconciliation with Ndigbo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that presentation. I'm just a bit curious about your literature review. Beryl, are you aware that in the past 10 years, there's been so much writings on the Nigerian Civil War? I'm raising this issue because your literature review, it's not something we can make reference to. I will explain to you. Have you ever heard of what we call the inside-out approach? When I say inside-out approach, that means, for example, the Nigerian Civil War. Over time, Nigerians who are the insiders have taken out time to do researches on the Nigerian Civil War, their thing. Are we together?
Yes.
Because your references, don't show, apart from Achebe, they don't really show that Nigerian perspective. It is our civil war. We own it. It is our thing. We can't let outsiders talk about our thing. I just want you to know that a lot of materials, you understand me, have been written by Nigerians for Nigerians about their perspectives on the Nigerian Civil War.
Okay, thank you for that wonderful presentation. And to be sincere, it's very succinct, and I think the most important details are captured. To quickly add to what Dr. Oba just stated, how well was a 3R implemented? What you've given us about the causes are focused on the proximate and triggering causes. We've not heard anything about the structural causes. There've been near-century struggle between the three major groups in Nigeria, and that struggle eventually led to, what we found ourselves in, the mid-1960s, and it's, centered around that ethnic suspicion.
Young Historian Competition, the keeper of African history.
The second speaker today is Abdul Malik Isa Abubakar from Bayero University, Kano. He's going to be speaking on oil boom and resource costs, investigating the consequences of Nigeria's oil boom on its economy, politics, and society, and how it has contributed to the resource cost phenomenon.
This presentation is going to investigate how Nigeria has found itself in this difficult situation of being rich in terms of oil, or even richest in Africa, and of being among the poorest countries in the world. The methodology I adopt in this research, I go by the empirical and theoretical data of national and international bodies, agencies, and organizations that have in-depthly researched on this topic and came up with so many recommendations and conclusions. Nigeria was an agrarian state, rich in agricultural produce prior to the discovery of oil. But after the discovery of oil, the narrative started to change. Nigeria discovered oil in 1956, but the discovery of oil started at the onset of Nigerian Civil War in 1903, when Buitman Corporation was granted license by the Nigerian government to discover oil. Though Nigeria was then not formally formed as Nigeria, because Nigeria was formally made in 1914 by Lugard. Buitman did not discover oil until 1955, when Shell started the process of discovering oil and successfully discovered that oil of marketable quantity in 1956 at Oloibiri in Obia local government, the present-day Bayelsa states. The discovery of oil started to become the major sector that Nigeria solely relied to generate 90% of its foreign earning, over 80% of its revenue. Then the Nigerian government granted license after Shell discovered that oil of marketable quantity to other 4 major international oil companies. Like the Mobil in 1955, it was granted license to go ahead and discover and explore oil. Like the Chevron, which was formerly called the Gulf Oil Company in 1962. Like the Ajib in 1961, sorry, like the Ajib in 1962, and like the ELF in 1962 also. And Tanaco Oil, I skip it, which is in 1960. All producing states in Nigeria are technically 8 states. I don't know whether you will hear the name Cross River falling in that list that I'm going to mention now. But the major oil producing state in Nigeria is Akwa Ibom State. By the recent statistics of Nigerian Department of Petroleum Resources, the NNPC, and the cable newspaper also captured that report. Akwa Ibom State produced 504 barrels of crude oil per day, followed by Delta State that produced 346,000 of barrel of crude oil per day. Third is the River State, which produced 340,000 barrels, and Bayelsa State with 290,000 barrels of crude oil. These 4 are major states producing oil for Nigeria, and their oil account for 80% production. The latter 4 or the remaining 4 are the Ondo State from Southwest, which produced 60,000 barrels per day, followed by Edo State, which produced 33,000 barrels per day. Second to the last is the Imo State, which produced 17,000 barrels per day, and lastly is the Abia State, which produced 11,000 barrels per day. Cross River State was not in the list. The same way with Kogi State as to the amount of barrels they produced, but they are recognized as overall producing state by all sincerity of argument and other recognitions, because Cross River State faced 2 fundamental challenges. One, the cessation of Bakassi in 2008, and then the ceding of 76 oil wells by the Supreme Court in 2012 to Akwa Ibom State. That's why there is so much argument about Cross River being recognized as oil producing state. But rather, let's take it that way. At this are the 8 major states that are producing oil for Nigeria. Nigeria recorded its first period of oil boom between 1970 to 1983. That period of oil boom era, oil was $3 per barrel by 1970. However, it skyrocketed up to 1983. And this had been shaped by 2 fundamental things. One, the policy of the Arabian countries, which dominates OPEC, as you know, to shape the Western foreign policy. And the second one is by 1983, the Iran-Iraq war, which also oil was not flowing at OPEC, and also by extension of international market, then oil went cost impact, which affects many oil producing countries, or rather natural deposit countries that have natural deposit, not only oil, like diamond, like gold, and so many things like that. By the time Nigeria got oil, it threw away agriculture, which used to contribute to 55% of GDP by then. And alas, now oil does not even contribute up to 4% of Nigerians' GDP due to the volatility and fluctuation at international markets. And this is the impact of oil on Nigeria. So that resource cost and dodge disease affected Nigeria's sectors by extension and dodge disease.
I have the following comments to make.
Okay, sir.
I think that your topic should read oil boom and the resource costs, investigating the consequences of Nigeria's oil boom.
Exactly, sir.
Yes. Because this other, your topic is too wordy. You're of the opinion that Nigeria is paradoxically poor.
Yes.
So rich and very poor.
On the other side.
I think that's your argument.
Yes, sir.
But there should be a theory to really capture that.
Young Historian Competition, the keeper of African history.
Luke Idowu Daramola, our final speaker on this episode, will be looking to captivate the judges and the audience with his talk on military rule and democratic transition, with an in-depth exploration of the historical context of military rule in Nigeria and the journey towards democratic governance.
Nigeria's journey towards liberal democracy has been marked by crises, coups, and above all, a 30 months agonizing civil war. Today's presentation, it aims at exploring the history of military rule in Nigeria and the journey towards democratic governance. The military and democracy are in dialectic opposition. This presentation rather, it aims to trace the history of Nigeria right from the politics of the First Republic and how it led to the intervention of the military, into or in Nigerian politics. It also aims to give an analysis of the major gains and losses of successive military governments in Nigeria. To start off, in the year 1960, Nigeria gained our independence. The prospects for the nation was high, owing to the fact that the country has an enormous reserve of natural resources. But there is this important concept in history, which is called the national question. Nigeria as a nation after independence, the sense of national consciousness was not in the minds of our First Republic politicians, and that led to a whole lot of tensions across the country, and ultimately leading to the intervention of the military in the politics of Nigeria. On January 15, 1966, in the early hours of that day, Major General Kaduna Izregu, yes, the coup mastermind, he invaded the Nigerian democracy. Yeah, there were reasons why the general or the military officer led that coup, but of course that day heralded the beginning of the military in the political history of the Nigerian state. Now, going to analyzing the first military administration, we had Major General Aguiyi Ironsi as the first military head of state. This regime basically will be remembered for transitioning the country from a democracy to a military government, and in the military rule, the military brought no opposition. So the point is, Major General Aguiyi Ironsi, he changed the face of Nigerian military. Nigerians lived under freedom, but where we had the military rules, the constitution and other democratic apparatus were suspended. So Nigeria found herself in a new dimension of rule. In that same year, in the month of July 1966, there was a counter coup that heralded the coming to power of a young general in person of Yakubu Gowon, who governed the country for 9 years. The first 4 years was focused on national reconciliation. Nigeria as a nation has to stick together. There was the outbreak of the civil war. The government was focused on uniting every section of the nation. The second 5 years, focuses on national building. In the year 1975, Gowon was toppled. And we had a new government, the government of General Murtala Muhammad and General Olusegun Obasanjo. This regime, I'm combining both together and making an analysis. At this point, it is not lost on me to state that the Second Republic was marred, by a whole lot of irregularities. The Second Republic that was led by Alhaji Shehu Shagari as Nigerian first executive president. There was corruption, there was economic mismanagement, and all of that. And that forced the hand of the military in the politics of the nation. To be precise, December 31st, 1983, General Muhammadu Buhari led a military coup against the civilian administration of Alhaji Shehu Shagari. I would love to state this. These different military administrations, they operated based on the prevailing local and international politics that went down during the 20th century. So their dispositions to issues differ from the other. After the government of General Muhammadu Buhari, we had a palace coup led by General Ibrahim Babangida on the 27th day of August 1985. I would love to state that the military government In terms of foreign policy, they did well, but of course, in terms of human rights records and all of that, they were very, very, very poor. So you as Nigerians, democracy still, is still our best form of government. And in the midst of the coups across continental Africa, we just have to get our democracy right. We have to fix our economy and fix a whole lot of things to ensure our democracy is viable.
Reason to be worried. You say your topic is on military rule.
Yes, sir.
Military rule and democratic transition. Exploring the historical context of military rule in Nigeria and the journey towards democratic governance. Beautiful topic. I'm taking you to the cleaners now. In the course of your presentation, you were rather discussing foreign policy and very little about democracy. You cannot discuss our democratic journey under military rule without mentioning party politics. Because at every point, every administration midwives a transition program.
Young Historian Competition, the keeper of African history.
The next edition of the Young Historian Competition is around the corner. Join us in this epic adventure where the brightest young minds in Nigeria compete for glory as they uncover stories of the past and explore ancient civilizations. For partnership opportunities, visit the rhfoundation.org/YHC or call the Restored Heart Foundation on 0708 616 0542.
Young Historian Competition, the keeper of African history.
In the next episode, we'll bring you the presentations of Rose John Toyo from the Northwest, Joy Adeboye from the Southwest, and Alex Olajide from the South-South. They will be competing to impress the judges and the audience and secure themselves a spot in the highly coveted semi-finals. Keep a date with us. The competition is brought to you by the Restored Heart Foundation in partnership with Fulton Marine Services Limited, Hills Carries Gas Limited, DigiPiper, and Carrier Paddy.
We're in the fatherland. Why do we belong? Let's take a journey.